Good afternoon. This is day 12 of the journey. So, today it started in a place that I've seen before, but it was a little more obvious this time. The voice this morning came in low, kind of unengaged, really deep, and not really ready to do anything yet. We started with Be Prepared. I think, was it Be Prepared first today? I'll get to that. But I have one low piece, I have one high piece. Now that I think about it, I think that Boulevard was first today. Anyway, instead of trying to fix my voice so it would be prepared for the piece, I just let the system start up and let the warm up do what it's supposed to do and just take it take by take. It worked, but more importantly, I started to see why it worked. What really became clear today is that I can't really break up phrases in a piece that I'm performing. They're not separate events. There's a flow between them. And this has really been a problem of me dividing things up. I'll finish one phrase, I reset myself, and then I try to start the next one. And every time I do that, the system drops out. So today, my focus was just don't break the motion. Just keep plugging through. And it's not a question of hit the note. And it's not a question of prepare for the next one. It's just to keep everything constantly going. Once that began to stick, things actually started to behave. The chorus, which for Boulevard has been my problem, started coming in without that vocal collapse. Now, it wasn't perfect. The onset was still a little light. It kind of took a few notes to really bring the energy up. But the important thing was the line stayed intact. I didn't have to rebuild it mid-phrase. So by the time I got into my later takes today, that connection was pretty much holding all the way through it. And not just to the chorus, but beyond it. The chorus for me is currently section 3 of 4. 3 and 4 were the new ones. But what was happening was, as 3 would collapse, it would take the energy with it, and 4 would just die. And it was just another verse. So by holding 3 together, holding that chorus together, even if the notes weren't right, continuing that drive through, the 4th section, that next verse, was beginning to fill in and become more compact. Now, this is a big shift from where this was just a couple of days ago. So let me just zoom in on my 4 sections. Section 1 is sort of the intro half verse. It's up an octave, and it's starting to settle down, but while the tone is a little more consistent and there's less instability, now the color of those tones is becoming more apparent. Now, section 2, which is the first real meaty part of the verse that's down the octave, that's getting to the point where I'm not even really thinking about the technical issues anymore. It's now about refinement. It's more the theatrical, whatever. It's about the tweaks I can make to make the performance better. And as I mentioned, section 4, which is new and is another verse on the higher octave, it's beginning to coalesce a bit, and that's predominantly because 3 isn't dragging it down. So if I were to sort of scrunch things up, overall today it felt more like a shift from can I get the note to can I stay in the phrase and roll to the next phrase. And that's a different problem. It's a better problem to have. I took a break between primary and secondary. Secondary, as I've now figured out, was Be Prepared. This one was really quick. I just did one take today. Because it did exactly what my secondary session is designed to do. It confirms that everything is still there and I haven't really taken any steps backwards. It's sort of a refresh your memory kind of thing. So the pitch, the timing, the placement, they were all solid. At this point, the notes aren't really the issue. I mean, sure, they could be sweetened with pitch shifting, but I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at just what my pure tone sounds like. And what I'm starting to notice more is, again, like section 2 of the Boulevard, that it's really coming down now to phrasing, the intensity. I think when I first did my log entry, I talked about the concept of the things I'm thinking about now are put a little more bite in there, let me hear a little more snarl there. And none of that has anything to do with the technique. It has to do with the character and the performance. So I'm really happy with Be Prepared shifting that way. Now, I did Be Prepared in the early afternoon. So the low notes, especially around the A1, they're there. But they're quiet. It's all internalized right now. It's often been said you record your good bass notes in the morning, because that's when you have morning voice. However, I did it in the early afternoon. You couldn't really hear my low notes, but I could feel that I was manufacturing them the same way that I do when I have morning voice and can produce them more loudly. So that hasn't really changed, and it's been consistent with what I'm seeing when I record at that time of the day. So here was my general view. Be Prepared, I'm pretty much down to the first half done, and it's really locking in to the point where it's becoming performance ready. Performance polishing ready. I've decided, starting with tomorrow's primary of Be Prepared, that I'm going to start bringing in the second half of the arrangement. I need to point this out, and this is going to come back again. The arrangement of Be Prepared that I'm learning is arranged and performed by voice play. And in turn, the part that I'm performing is done by Geoff Castellucci. Now, if you are not familiar with this name, which for most basses is very unlikely, but in general, Geoff is a ferocious bass singer. He's been performing professionally and honing his voice for over 25 years. There are different reported measures of what his range is, but most consistently I see what is known as B0 through D5. Now, a B0 is pretty much as low as you can go. It is the second white key on a piano. In general, it's a rumble, it's not a note. The D5, on the other hand, we're talking soprano diva note. That is a very high note. Now, admittedly, that whole B0 to D5 is not just in his chest range, but the fact that his subharmonics are so controlled that he can get a clean B0 pretty much whenever he wants, and the D5 is either a head-chest mix or maybe chest, he still has, when warmed up, the accuracy to go there. Now, as for the piece that I'm doing, actually, before I go there, I'm giving lots of B0, D5. You have to remember that a number starts on C. So the fifth octave starts on C5. I actually have a little piano here. I can start playing notes. But really, the thing I'm struggling with right now on Boulevard is an F4, which is many notes below a C5. And when I can get an F4, that feels like a win. So in this arrangement, there are two lines where Geoff takes the part up an octave. What normally might sit at about a C3 through an A3, when Geoff performs it, is a C4 through an A4, which it's a little daunting. It's definitely not what I've got any kind of control over. I'm my mix slash head voice can hit those notes, but it just does not sound as robust or as strong. So I have to face, how am I going to enter into this next section of the music? Because realistically, they're not something I can consistently reproduce. So obviously, forcing it is not the right idea. So the way I'm planning it is to work predominantly in the lower octave. If I'm just working it and feeling my way through it, I'll work the regular octave. If I feel myself relaxed and open, I might go for it and try the fourth octave. And if it shows up, fantastic. And if it doesn't show up, it's a way for me to learn what in my system is not necessarily correct and saying, yeah, go for it. Because obviously there are times my enthusiasm, my body will go, sure, you're all set, and I won't be. But it's not a failure. Everything is a learning experience. But the bottom line is, I'm not going to go chasing it. If it's there, it's there. If I can't quite get there, I may just drop the octave mid-phrase to hold the energy up, or I might just, get myself reset and move on. The advantage of not necessarily holding and controlling the energy all the way through is, I think, the two lines are like the penultimate line and the line before it. So, I think the only thing after those two lines is a be prepared, which of course drops down to an F2 to A1. So you've got this up here to there. So that's going to be fun. But I chose these pieces because I love them and I knew they would require work. I can't force. If I force it, it'll break. That's been a constant throughout my practices. And right now, making sure everything works to its best. That's my goal. One of the interesting things is I'm bringing in a second half. I do not want to think of it as a second half. I want to just think of it as more of what I'm doing already. And this will be interesting too, because in the first half, the lead singer is singing for most of the first half. In the second half, the backup singers are singing more lead, and there's downtime for the lead vocalist. So it's a question of how to maintain what I'm doing, even though I'm basically stepping back. So, not rebuilding, I'm not rethinking, I'm just going to extend what I'm doing. So those are my sessions for today. I have on occasion been starting to talk about news with a lot of groups that I follow from around the a cappella community. But before I get to that, I want to spend some time with what I watched today, which was a deep breakdown by Danny Brevik, who is better known by many as Big Brev. He's a very well-known bass performer and educator in the a cappella community. So he was doing a deep dive into Geoff Castellucci's performance of Big Bad John. And I'm blocking currently who did the original version, which I think may have gone back to the 50s. It's old country, but Geoff redid it a couple of years back. Beautiful rendition, a lot of emotion, a lot of great arrangement. From a technical standpoint, one of the things that stood out from Brev's analysis was that he pointed out that Geoff has the ability to hit extremely low notes in his chest voice. In this specific song, he hits a G1 in his chest. And that is an incredibly difficult note to reach. Brev describes it as something that only about 0.1% can actually physically do. It was fascinating to see the deep dive. And both Brev's analysis and the original video for the song on YouTube, I have both those links in the description. Now, one note unrelated to the breakdown session, but interesting about this specific performance, it's actually taken on a bit of a life of its own. There is now a whole trend, a meme, sometimes referred to as the Big John machine. People are using this, Geoff's version of Big Bad John, to track and test high-end audio systems, especially for obviously the bass response. And you'll see videos of really, really expensive stereo setups, and absurdly. I saw one link for $2 million. I didn't verify that, but on the net, anybody will claim anything. But definitely there are expensive stereo sets, and they're just playing Geoff's version of Big Bad John to get the bass playback response feedback to see how good their system is. And I just found that really fascinating. I remember Geoff commenting at one point that the views on that specific video had suddenly gone up, and he found out he was a meme. Anyway, I did take a look at what's going on across the a cappella groups I follow. And to be honest, it's really quiet right now. What this typically means is many of the groups that aren't touring or saying anything are probably, and this is just an estimate from my point of view, are probably recording or preparing to release stuff. So there's not much going on, but hopefully it means there'll be stuff coming soon. Of course, the one group that I did find that is currently active is Home Free. They're currently touring North America on their Crazier Life tour, which is tied to the Crazier Life release. And if you want information about the tour or how to get a link to it, I did include a link to their tour information in the description below. Let's see. As mentioned in the description, I also put the list of groups that I'm currently following. If you have a specific a cappella group or possibly even performer that you think I should be following, please let me know about it. Put it in my comments, and I will definitely follow up on them. And I'll take a look. Let's see, news, groups. Today's takeaway is pretty straightforward. It's not about going for notes. It's about staying connected. Once everything holds, even if things aren't perfect, they're consistent and they sound better. And that's, I think, where I'm going to wrap up day 12 today. Tomorrow, lucky number 13. As always, thank you for joining me. Please subscribe if you're not. Comments and likes help. I don't care about algorithms. I just like hearing from people. And as always, later.